Welcome back, everybody, to What's Up, Bolts? I'm Fernando Ramirez, that sunglass donning, COMPAS hat wearing son of a gun is Dan and Daygo. Whoa. Dan, I pretty much know your wardrobe. I mean, I am you, according to some viewers.
The conspiracy,
you're
conspiracy talk.
But I see you got a shirt on there. Look at that nice shirt.
Hold on, the mic.
That's a Die Hard Bolts Club shirt. Dan, talk about it. How does it fit?
Absolute shout out to Die Hard Bolt Club. They deemed your boy
Pablo Valencia was the one that
shout out. Well, let me tell you something, Frown. The fit, as the boys say, as the kids say, it is absolutely on fire. I knew I had to wear this Die Hard Bolt Club shirt for the first episode of What's Up, Bolt. Shout out to you guys, dude. You guys are awesome.
Maybe you should wear the whole
it's super
season.
comfortable. It's super comfortable. Like, it almost feels like a dry fit. So silky smooth and everything else. So they have great quality shirts. Freaking shout out. Appreciate the shirt, everybody over there at Die Hard Bolts Club or Die Hard Bolt. Yeah, I don't know why I tripped up. Die Hard. You love how I had to read the shirt?
Yeah, I'm like, and upside down too. I'm like, whoa. But also shout out to Karen Garcia. Karen's she's been a fan from day one.
Legend, dude.
And we appreciate her also for that one. Yeah, exactly. We
appreciate
her also for all that, and it's good. They're awesome with that. They give everybody t-shirts, and they've given Tom Telesco one. They've given some other folks some. So it's definitely awesome what they're doing there with the Die Hard Bolts Club, and they're great people. They're compas, so we appreciate them, and shout out to them. Maybe that has to be a Dan and Daygo shirt for every time we jump on What's Up, Bolts. You wearing that?
I got it. Maybe next week I'll put it on backwards. That way you can see the back. The back's really awesome, honestly. Unless I got this on backwards, but I don't think so. No, I got it on straight.
Nobody wants to see the dad bod, so don't.
I would never want to show anybody the dad bod, so don't worry about that one, dude. That one's under wraps. It's like
come talk to him in a couple of months, though.
Exactly. 0 dark 30, like LeBron used to say, or whatever. I tell the boys all the time at the practice, when we're at practice or whatever, joking with them. I'm like, fellas, I smoke 24 packs of cigarettes a day, and I'm in better shape than half of you. They start laughing. I'm like, don't be confused. This is peak body performance over here, dude. I'm ready to go.
Dan and Daygo's like a bear. Like he gains the weight for the winter so that he's nice and warm. Then during the summer, here comes the dad bod. So let's just call it a work in progress. But
always a work in progress, yeah.
Exactly. But Dan, we got to get into. We have a really cool interview set up with Armando Salguero. He's covered the Dolphins for years and years. Now he's an NFL reporter at Outkick. He does a lot of great work. He's done a lot of great work in years past. So definitely a great guy to interview, and I can't wait for you guys to check that out. But obviously, this is your preview for the Chargers Dolphins week 1. Dan, how hyped are you for that?
Frau, you have no idea. I am so sick of the sport that is called baseball. If I am not at the park getting drunk by the 5th inning, I have no desire to hear about it, talk about it, or anything else. I'm tired of the chat being blown up about baseball and the Padres this and the Dodgers.
Your Padres are losing right now, by the way.
Okay, yeah, who cares? It's September. Why do I care? It's September. Football is back. Thank God. For a while there, I was going to have to gnaw at my own leg. I was so freaking tired of hearing about baseball. But, I saw a little wrestling. That's kind of a nice little carryover. We had, we didn't have any. Did we have soccer over the summer? No, right?
Not as much, but the EPL has been back, and
thank God. Thank God. That's been holding me over, dude. But thank God football is back. I am absolutely ready for it. Literally, from the time that Champions League is over in May to September when football comes back, those are the months I dread the most because there's no football or sport that I really enjoy on TV. Wrestling's a nice little layover though, but
that one never. I mean, they don't have an off season, so it's all. It's awesome.
We saw payback. We saw payback
exactly,
and you already know what it is, Frown, because it's me. It's Dan and Daygo. Yeah.
God, I have to hear about that on every single show, I guess. Except for COMPAS FC. Shout out to those guys. They don't fall for the okie doke. Obviously, I know there's somebody that you're excited to watch this weekend.
100%. 100%. I can't wait to see. Number one, the son of Odin. That's the guy I'm always looking for. I'm excited to see this weekend, honestly, how Quentin Johnston's going to do in his debut. That's a big guy I'm looking for. The other one that I'm interested to see what's going to happen is obviously, your boy. He's got to be in the trenches. So I can't wait to see. I'm interested to see how Sawyer is going to do with the change. Johnson's going to do with the change, and how Rashawn Slater's going to do coming back and everything else. That to me is going to be a
he's fired up.
He should be. Had
like last week. He's like, I'm so fired up to get back out there. Like,
more than a year out of football, dude. Because I think he got injured like week 2 or something like that.
And the crazy part is that last year when the Chargers played the Dolphins, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips were able to generate some pressure, but Trey Pipkins and Rashawn Slater did not play in that game. So this year it could be a little bit different when it comes to that aspect. But Dan, you wanted to get into before we jump to the interview with Armando, you wanted to say something real quick on the Dolphins?
Yeah, real quick, right? Like I think the most important thing going into this game, if I'm Mike McDaniel, because everybody forgets Mike McDaniel and Brandon Staley, I'm pretty sure they're boys or they know each other at some capacity. So
I think they share the same agent.
There you go. The biggest question that, the Dolphins, if I'm game planning against the Dolphins, right? How far is Tua going to go? Because I think that's, I don't care what people say about his MMA and his, all that other stuff. Like, how far is Tua going to go? I think is going to be the biggest question because, there's no slouches on the edges, Frau. You got Khalil Mack and you got Joey Bosa. If they get after it against him, that's going to be a long day for him, and who knows how he's going to go. So,
that was another thing about last year. Also, Derwin James didn't play in that game, neither did Joey Bosa.
Joey Bosa didn't play. It's a lot of different elements, facets of the game, elements. Yeah, exactly. So, 100%. The first thing I'm doing if I was Mike McDaniel to try and minimize some of these things, I'm running inside zone. I'm running counter. I'm running trap. I'm running power, screens, just things to try and get these edge rushers essentially off footing. They don't know what play is coming next, what type of block they're going to get and stuff like that. Chips, double teams, other things, the normal stuff and stuff like that. I'd run some RPOs also. Like the main focal point that I would try and do if I was Mike McDaniel is get the ball out fast. Like there's no way you're going to try and I would not send Tua back on a 5-step drop right now or anything like that. Like I would do a lot of very quick passes, dinks and dunks. You know what I'm saying? Try and pick at some of these guys because another thing is this, right? If they try and bring Derwin into the box and they leave Alohi Gilman up top or someone else and they go in that, too high safety type of look when they have two safeties back there.
It would be JT Woods and Alohi Gilman.
I'm taking shots. I'm taking shots because you know why I'm going to test them? Because you already know Derwin James is an all-pro. Derwin James is a stud. Those other two guys are going to be question marks if you're looking at it from their perspective. So there's a lot of things that's going to go into it. I think right now that would be the biggest thing I would be trying to do if I was the Dolphins. And the other thing is this: 2 years in a row of Chargers defenses having running issues or issues against the run game. That's the other thing I'm doing if I'm Mike McDaniel. I would be trying to pound the rock and see if this is going to be the third year where they're going to struggle in the run game or if they change something. So that's just a little bit of my opinion in the sense of the way the Dolphins should attack these guys because that's going to be very interesting. And then on the flip side, offensively, I think that's going to be tough to stop. You have a lot of receivers, new offensive coordinator. You don't know what you're going to expect. It's gonna be interesting.
Well, on the Chargers side, we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah. On the Chargers side,
but you're speaking of that, and as of right now, we don't know if Teron Armstead, the left tackle, is going to play for the Dolphins, but it's not looking too good.
That's going to be a problem right there.
Yeah. So, and I know he sustained the injury during training camp, and he told some of the guys, "Hey, I'm okay." Yeah, I'm okay, but like, how long are you going to be out? Like, obviously, he doesn't know. So that's going to be interesting if he's not able to go. Even if he's out there at 80%, 75%, that's going to be tough, especially because we all know Khalil Mack and Joey like to switch sides.
They like to get after it,
They're both different on their approach, but I mean, this Dolphins team is no slouch at all. Like there's a reason why they're contenders. And we already know Vic Fangio is now there.
That's the other thing. Yeah,
Brandon Staley comes from the Vic Fangio system, so Vic usually has his guys. His defense are usually top notch. So I'm going to be interested to see what this defense looks like with Vic Fangio there. I mean, you can basically predict what, but can the players step up and get up to the level that Vic Fangio is used to. I mean, Vic Fangio had the Denver Broncos playing at a high level.
Oh yeah,
the defense.
Points.
He had the defense. Yeah. He had the defense playing at a high level. But now it's going to be interesting to see what this defense is going to look like. Xavier Howard is getting up there in age. They have a great Javon Holland, a safety from Oregon. By the way, Javon Holland, Joe Shad from Miami, covers the Dolphins. He had a tweet where he said that Javon Holland and Justin Herbert used to race after practices, and that's when he knew that Justin was going to be special. Wait, no, hold on. I don't want to do the quote any misservice, but here it.
You don't want to misquote.
Yeah. I don't want to be one of those stooges. Here it is. Let's bring it up, and it says Javon Holland said, my freshman year of college, I was running sprints full speed with Justin Herbert, and he was beating everybody. That's when I knew he was special. Now, a couple of last week, actually, no, before the last preseason game against, and that's Joe Shad from Palm Beach Post. He's covered the Dolphins for years as well. But was it last week? It was before the preseason game between the Chargers and the 49ers. I saw Quentin Johnston and Justin running sprints back and forth. And I asked Quentin, I'm like, hey, like, you and Justin are running sprints. Like, did you guys race? And he's like, no, but we should. But he's sneaky fast. Like,
yeah,
he's like, but it's his long legs and his long stride. I mean, Justin is 6'6". Yep. So he's like, he's sneaky. Like, he's like, one day we are going to have to race. And I told him, I'm like, I hope the media is there when you guys get to race, because I'd love to watch that race. Because we all know Tyreek Hill's been racing people during the offseason and posting it on social media. So, by the way, he's going to be a handful. Jalen Waddle's going to be a handful.
So, and you know what's the other thing? They're going to move those guys around too. That's the biggest problem. Yeah.
But I mean, we'll get into that aspect. But let's go now to have our special guest, Armando Salguero. He's going to break down. He's a great reporter for Outkick. He's going to break down everything that is Miami Dolphins football. Let's go to him now. Chargers Dolphins, a big week. It has history behind it. We all know the famous playoff game. Who better to get than Armando Salguero, who it works at Outkick. He's covered the Dolphins for years. Now he's covering the NFL. But I wanted to get everything, so I invited him to jump on. Also, fellow Latino. So, Armando, how are you doing? And thank you for jumping on.
Oh, dude, it's my pleasure. It's really you obviously looked at a billion other people and then decided, let's get Armando to do it because
no, you're the guy. No, you're the guy. You're the godfather of the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. You look up in the dictionary and it says Armando Salguero has covered them for years. So
it's usually years ago it was Armando Salguero and then a bullseye.
Hey, I mean that's that you know how the business is. I mean, some people like you, some people hate you. But as long as you have as long as you can respect and you can sleep well at night, that's all that matters, to be honest. So but yeah, I just wanted to get you in and talk a little Dolphins. Like I said, I know you've been around the team for years, and I mean, I got to start here. I mean, last year, Tua Tagovailoa suffers those two concussions that we know of. I mean, who knows what other things happened with him injury-wise, but he's been taking tumbling classes. He's been doing stuff like that. How do you feel like that's going to help him? Do you feel like it's going to help him this season? And how do you think it's going to help? And how do you think it's going to help him?
Well, so we don't know for sure because you can't predict the future. He has done the natural thing, which is try to address it in the offseason. He is now a jiu-jitsu, not a master, but I think he's a blue belt or whatever it is. So he's taken jiu-jitsu. He has indeed been shown how to fall. He changed his helmet. He added weight, muscle, I assume. in the
You don't want to add the other thing.
Yeah, that's for sports writers.
Yeah.
So he added weight. The idea is, look, you got to protect yourself when you're falling. And most of his problems have been when he falls, his head oftentimes rebounds against the turf. And that's a bad way to do it. So he's been taught how to keep his neck elevated. And the hope is that he can stay healthy because, quite frankly, without him, the Miami Dolphins are not much of a football team as far as the playoffs and playoff contention is concerned.
Armando, I got to ask, because, I mean, it's not just on Tua. It's also on the offensive line. Teron Armstead, we all know, suffered that injury during training camp. As of right now, things aren't looking positive for him to go on Sunday. But how do you feel like Mike McDaniel has improved that offensive line, and obviously how big of a blow would it be for this offense if Teron Armstead doesn't go?
Yeah, it's not just Armstead. I mean, the entire left side, Liam Eichenberg has been hurt, and he's the left guard. Teron Armstead obviously missed the preseason, and he's the left tackle. I mean, that's no bueno. When you're trying to protect your quarterback, offensive line chemistry, cohesion, and health are huge, and it's impossible for them to have cohesion and chemistry without the health, and they haven't had the health on the left side of that line.
And you kind of look at it, and that's what I've been saying. I mean, I understand he's doing the whole jiu-jitsu thing. It also rests on the offensive line. It rests on what the play calling is going to be. Like, especially if Teron Armstead and Liam aren't there this weekend, you can't have him hold on to the football because I'm just going to be honest, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, they're not just going to place him down on the ground. They're two physical ends. They're two physical guys that are going to come after him. So that's kind of the big concern from my point of view, that it's not going to be, hey, we're just going to place you gently. Like, they're going to come out and they're going to hit and they're going to try and disrupt them. So how do you kind of feel like in that sense? Do you feel like he, how do I want to put this? Do you feel like he might get a little fidgety, or in what way do you expect Tua to play this weekend, especially if Armstead and Liam aren't in there?
So I'm going to tell you something weird, Fernando. The two hits that he took last year in which he got his concussions, his chronicled concussions, his official concussion, they weren't exactly hard, oh my God, Sports Center type hits. They were generally just routine takedowns of a quarterback, one by a defensive back, no less. He had one against Green Bay, and it was on a defensive back blitz, and it was kind of, I don't want to say lame, but it was routine. It was unremarkable, the takedown. And so I don't understand what the situation was there. To be honest with you, the hit that he took prior to the Cincinnati game, which everybody saw on national television, when he went into, total concussion mode, and we all saw that scary picture. The week before that, or the Sunday before that, it was a Thursday game, Matt Milano pushed him. And so Tua, being a smaller quarterback, he fell backward. And exactly what he's trying to avoid this year happened that moment where he falls back and his head snaps back onto the turf. None of those hits, none of them are kind of hits that you think, oh my gosh, this is disastrous. These are hits that quarterbacks get up from and move on from every single game day in the NFL. So it's hard to predict if and when someone actually gets a good lick on him, how he's going to react. I hope for his sake that it's well, because as we know, concussions are a different situation altogether. And he now has 2.
Yeah.
If he gets a third within the calendar frame of 1 year, we're not talking your day-to-day anymore. We're not talking you're in the protocol and we'll see you at the end of the week. We're talking weeks and weeks and weeks of, it's 3 concussions in a year. This is serious business.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And obviously health goes beyond, or health is first over anything else. But let me ask you now about Tua, the quarterback. I mean, Jalen Hurts has been paid. Justin Herbert has been paid. Joe Burrow is hopefully on the verge of getting paid. Who knows what Mike Brown's going to do up there? But and the Dolphins gave him his 5th-year option. How big of a year is this for Tua when it comes to terms of trying to get that big contract extension?
Well, the fact that Tua is one of the 2020, if not the only 2020 drafted quarterback that has not gotten an extension and will not get one, by the way. He's not getting one this season. They're going to wait until after the season. That goes back to his health, because the Dolphins want to see him get through a season. And I should say here that Tua has had previous injury and durability issues, not just in Miami, but at Alabama, his final year there with the hip. So you have a smallish quarterback who's shown to have a durability history. The Dolphins have decided we're going to put the 5th-year option on you, but we're not going to necessarily right away commit 5 or 6 years to you. Let's play this by ear and see how this works. And that's doing the right thing. Also, the issue is at the end of last year for him, he had a bad West Coast trip. He played the Chargers and they figured that offense out.
Yeah.
He played the 49ers the week before and they figured the offense out. So it's not just a question of can you stay healthy? It's what's your chapter 2 to what you offered early in the season? What else do you have? Because now people seen from last year, from the Chargers included, have a book on you. So what can you do to adjust to the adjustments?
Yeah. Armando, you've been around the team, like I mentioned numerous times, for years. You've covered the NFL for years. What do you make of Mike McDaniel as a head coach? Yeah, your face.
Yeah, he is a different bird, man. He is just a different kind of dude. The first time that I met Mike McDaniel, he spent 10 minutes talking to me about my glasses. Like, my glasses. And I'm like, okay. That's not exactly what I expected. He doesn't look the part.
Yeah.
He when he speaks, he gets somewhere eventually, but he takes the roundabout, circuitous route, and you never know what he's gonna offer up next. But last year they went on like a 5-game losing streak, and I thought to myself, if there is ever a time when a coach would lose a team, it's this guy who doesn't look the part, is in his first year, has no experience, and it's a veteran, it's a veteran roster. And he didn't lose the team.
Yep.
He did not lose the locker room. They respect him. They really, really like him, and they play for him. So for all the foibles and the quirks, hey, the bottom line is the bottom line. They got in the playoffs last year. He got them there. I will say this. It was his first year. Dolphins history is replete with coaches who were successful their first year, and then it went off the table after that. So he's got something to prove still, because Adam Gase made the playoffs his first year.
Oh, yeah.
Tony Sparano made the playoffs his first year.
R.I.P.
Dave Wanstead made the playoffs and won the division his first year. But in their second, third, and fourth years, some of them didn't get to their fourth years. After their first year, it got ugly.
And that's what I've been because folks ask me, has Brandon Staley lost the locker room? I'm like, no. If anything, it's made these guys stronger. They love him. They're all about him, and they all they're really excited about this year with Brandon Staley. So I think that speaks volumes. I mean, when players are detached from everything, you can tell. And for all the faults of and all the negatives and positives of the Chargers the last few years, they're still behind him and they're still with him. So I think that speaks volumes, like you said about Mike McDaniel, to be completely honest. But Vic Fangio now comes in, and obviously Brandon Staley's from his coaching tree, and he's supposed to fix that defense. He was with Bradley Chubb back with the Broncos. He gets Jalen Phillips, Christian Wilkes, Xavier Howard, Javon Holland. What do you expect from this defense this season? And I know they're missing Jalen Ramsey, and he probably won't be back until December. But what do you think about Vic Fangio taking over this defense?
Well, now that Jalen Ramsey is out for a while, Vic Fangio becomes the biggest acquisition of the offseason for the Miami Dolphins. In that now they are less predictable. They're not going to play man press every down. They're not going to zero blitz, 40% of the time on passing downs. They're going to try to create pressure other ways, including, as you mentioned, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, whose job is to create pass rush.
Yeah.
So you're going to see actually Jalen Phillips attack the pocket as opposed to drop into coverage, which, I don't know, man. That didn't always make a lot of sense to me, but obviously there's a reason they changed systems and coordinators. So Vic Fangio, he's been there, he's done that. Great defensive coordinator, and I expect them to be good on defense. There's no reason why they shouldn't. Obviously, not as good as if they had Jalen Ramsey on there. But Jalen Ramsey, by the way, he expects to come back in November. That's his timeline. The regular timeline is December.
Yeah.
He's saying November.
Well, Derwin James always told Jalen and Derwin are like big brother, little brother. Derwin told me, don't ever count Jalen out. Like if he says something, that means he's going to do it. So that'll be interesting. But two more questions, Armando. One, what do you expect this weekend from this matchup?
Well, we sort of touched on it before. On offense, the Dolphins offense has to have a response to the butt whipping that they got from the Chargers defense last year, right? They have to find answers where last year they left with a lot of questions. On defense, you got to deal with the big quarterback. I mean, Justin Herbert's pretty good.
I don't think you could tell that to Dolphins fans, though, from what I've seen on Twitter.
They've got this little thing going with, we got to defend Tua because, obviously the Dolphins picked Tua one slot ahead of Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert is so far been the better quarterback. So there's a movement called Tuanon where you can say nothing bad about Tua or you're going to get destroyed on social media. And so whatever. Look, the bottom line is it speaks on the field. I think they're 1-1 against each other. So we'll see which way that goes. And obviously I just mentioned that, and I'm one of those guys that doesn't believe wins and losses is a quarterback stat. It's a team stat.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I know that the media will make it Herbert against Tua, and it is what it is. Raise the billing, raise the hype. I'm fine with that.
Armando, last question for me, and it's not really Dolphins related, it's more Chargers. Antonio Gates becomes eligible for the Hall of Fame this year. What it'd be a first ballot. What do you make of that? What do you think about Antonio's chances going into his first chance to become eligible for the Hall of Fame?
In my opinion, Antonio Gates is a Hall of Famer. I'm not sure that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, people think, well, he's absolutely in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. Well, yeah, okay. But you have to go through the process. And part of the process is if you get to the selection meeting and in front of the 50 selectors, of which I am one, you don't just decide on the player.
Yeah.
You decide on the player or the candidate versus the other guys, right? And so I'm not sure how he will stack up that day against the competition, because if you're going to tell me he absolutely needs to be in the Hall of Fame this year, you better be able to tell me who doesn't, because there's only so many spots. And if you're putting one in, you're taking somebody out. That's what people don't typically recognize. They tell you, oh, you messed up putting him in. Okay, so who is in that you want out? Tell me that, and then we can have a conversation.
Beautifully said, Armando. I feel like not a lot of people know about how this process goes, so I wanted you to explain it so that people understand, and that was great. And again, thank you so much for jumping on and talking a little Dolphins, previewing it. I needed to get the man, the myth, the legend on here to talk about this. So, Armando, thank you so much. And let everybody know where they can find you on social media and all your work.
Yeah, so I'm the senior NFL writer at Outkick.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Armando, Armando, Salguero, Salguero.
Thank you so much, Armando. Dan, great interview with Armando. Obviously, he brings years and years of knowledge when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. But obviously, we want to get into that a little bit. And obviously, like we said, we don't know what this offense. Well, we know what their offense is going to look like. Their defense is going to be the question mark. But Vic Fangio always knows how to find those players and get them to play hard. Obviously, he's reunited with Bradley Chubb. He was with them with the Broncos. He has another pass rusher in Jalen Phillips. So that's kind of the Von Miller, Bradley Chubb kind of thing. And then you have Christian Wilkins, the defensive lineman. He's a handful. So this and Javon Holland, like I mentioned, this defense is no slouch, but I think the Chargers offense is going to have to be creative. And like you said earlier, there's an unknown. Kellen Moore is now the offensive coordinator. What is this new offense going to look like? So I'm really interested to see what the Chargers are going to do come Sunday.
And the other thing is this, right? I think I completely forgot to highlight this point, but the fact that he was with the Broncos for, I think, like 3 years, right? I think he's been there so far every year of Justin Herbert except the Hackett year, right? He was there for like 2 years for Herbert, or
I think he was there for 2 years of Herbert, and
he got fired, and then it was Hackett last year or something like that.
Yeah,
regardless, he's familiar with the team and a lot of those players, right? So he's familiar with Herbert, he's familiar with Mike Will, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and some of those guys. So I think that's going to play a huge factor in this game, that it's not like he's playing.
Yeah, he was there for 3 seasons.
Okay, so he would have had 3 years of Herbert then, right?
No, he had 1 year of Phillip and 2 years of Herbert.
Okay, so he at least is familiar with Herbert. So, and that experience is going to, obviously play a huge role in it, because like I said, he's already seen them before. He already knows what some of those players are good at, what some of those players might not be good at. And like we talked about, his Bronco teams for the most part were around 8-8 or around average like that. But it was off the back of great defense that they weren't worse. You know what I mean? Like, so that's going to be interesting in and of itself, because that familiarity is there. Like you mentioned, he's going up against his protege. A lot of times that plays into the mind games and everything else. We've all seen they always love to bring up that graphic of Saban versus former assistants as head coaches and stuff like that. Yeah. Obviously, they're both not head coaches. One of them's a coordinator now, but I mean, of course, that sort of plays into a factor. So I think
Staley's 2-2 against 1-1 against Vic Fangio.
Oh, there you go. Right. So I think all that's going to play a factor. Like I said, Vic Fangio obviously very intelligent, knows how to get players to play good defense. So I don't think it's gonna be an easy game, but I think it's very winnable. It's very winnable if you play good, fundamentally sound football. And it's going to be interesting to see what Kellen Moore comes up with, because I think he's got a lot of weapons at his disposal. It's just, how do you pair certain things up, how putting people in the right position.
How can you expose because remember, Jalen Ramsey's not going to play in this game.
So that's at least one guy down. Exactly.
Yeah, you have to be able to expose. You're going to have to be able to expose this defense and kind of hit its weak points and everything. And I'm sure Kellen Moore knows how to do that. I mean, he did that with the Cowboys last year. Yep. The crazy part is that, and this is one of my points when it comes to this offense, the third and fourth quarter, they were terrible at scoring last year. They would score all in the first half. Then in the second half, it was a struggle. Kellen Moore's Cowboys were top 5, I think, in second half scoring, if not top 3. So that's the thing. You need to be able to score in the second half. You need to be able to bring it home. And I just want to see what that new look Charger is going to look like. The Charger offense. Obviously, can you get Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston in good spots to succeed? Like I was thinking about this, and I'm like, everybody's going to be focused on Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So that's going to be a Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, and even a Gerald Everett. Can you step up and come out and expose the defense and put yourself in good positions to move the ball down the field and obviously ultimately score? But that third and fourth quarter, it's going to be interesting to watch them, because like I said, the Chargers last year with Lombardi struggled in the third and fourth quarter to score points. Now you have a big opportunity this year with Kellen Moore and his aggressive play style and everything to go in there and try and put up points. So this is going to be a very interesting. What was I going to say? This is going to be an interesting game for the Chargers.
100%. Because like we've talked about, we've touched on a little bit today. There was a lot of questions from last year, like you mentioned, second half scoring. Another thing, the run game. Are they going to be able to ice them out if they do have a lead, running the football or being
Josh Palmer or Josh
Kelly
and
Isaiah Spiller? Obviously they kept
Dotson.
Dotson. Obviously they kept him also. So it's going to be interesting to see if they kind of mix it in there to kind of keep Eckler fresh. What are they going to do? Then the other thing, on the flip side, like we talked about last year also, are they going to be able to stop the run this year finally, or are they not? Because I think, if I remember correctly, they have some solid running backs in Miami. I think one of them is
Mostert.
Yeah, exactly. Mostert.
Yeah, they have a rookie that's pretty decent. He has working through some issues, but yeah.
And a lot of people forget, supposedly, I mean, obviously the way they build it, obviously Shanahan calls his own plays, but he supposedly was a mastermind either in the run game or something up there in San Francisco. And that Shanahan touch in the run game, elite. I don't think anyone else runs the ball as well as he does. He's very creative. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because if these linebackers are undisciplined when they got motion or things moving around, they will get eaten alive inside, because just based off that tree alone, it's all about angles. So when guys start moving around a little bit, that's where they cut them off and they set up the alley that these running backs want to run through. So it's going to be very interesting, because like I mentioned earlier, if I'm Mike McDaniel, one of the first things I'm doing in the first quarter is I'm pounding the rock to see if it's the same old Chargers or if they actually evolved and they're going to stop the run game. So that to me is going to be, because the thing about the run game, and again, I know I get a lot of crap from Hilberto and everybody else on the show, but there's no substitute for physicality in the run game. In the pass game, it's a little bit less physical. It's more a little bit speed, timing, and certain other things. It's physical if you want to use power, and that's about it. But in the run game, that's where you test the will of the defenders, the will of the team, and everything else. Because, you could only imagine, Frown, what it's like to be, 5 or 6 plays into a drive, and everyone has been different types of run plays, and what's coming, but you can't stop it, because either they're running it so efficiently or they're just that physical that they're overpowering you. Like, it's demoralizing. So come second halftime, you're demoralized and you're exhausted. So that's going to be that. I think those are going to be the most interesting questions on what they're going to do. 100%, like you said, score in the second half. Can they run the football, and can they stop the run? Those are the 3 questions I'm looking for this Sunday.
my other thing is when you look at the Dolphins offense, and well, no, actually, no, this is more of a Chargers defense. What JC Jackson are you going to get? JC Jackson has last year, he didn't really perform up to par. He missed most of training camp with an injury. And he got hurt during that Seattle Seahawks game and didn't come back. Now he's back. He basically, Dan, I was impressed. He was there most of training camp. I think he only missed 2 practices, but for the most part, he was there. When they did the joint practice with the Saints, he looked pretty good. He almost had a pick 6, but that's what he was telling us. He told us since June. He told it to us again during camp. I want to show these guys why my nickname is Mr. INT. I need to get back to that level so I can show out. But he also said it's a confidence thing. I need to rebuild my confidence. I need to be able to go out there with the mentality of, hey, I don't have to worry about my knee. I don't have to worry about this. I don't have to worry about that. And I think he's gained that confidence throughout training camp. And he says he has a better understanding of the playbook, that he sat down, he's analyzed it more. So I think JC Jackson is going to be a huge indicator of what this team is going to be this year, because if he can play all 17 games and let's just say they make the playoffs, then you're already winning. But if he goes down and you have to, I mean, like if you have to, because right now you have him, Michael Davis, and Asante Samuel Jr.
That's pretty luxury.
Solid. You have Jazier Taylor and Dean Leonard behind them, which is kind of a luxury right now, like in a good way.
Yeah.
If you lose him, you have to go to Michael Davis and Asante Samuel Jr. and then Jazier Taylor and Asante kind of switching in and out. And then obviously you'd have to mix in Dean Leonard, but you don't want to do that. You want to be able to be solid when it comes to your cornerbacks and your secondary. So you need continuity. And if JC can get to that point where he's Mr. INT again, then that's going to be crucial for them. But that's the big question. What is he going to be when he goes out there? He didn't play any preseason games. So I think that's going to be crucial when it comes to what this Chargers team is going to look like. And hey, guess what? You get tested week 1. You got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the other side.
No rest for the wicked.
Exactly. Can you keep up with them? What's his game plan going to be? The Chargers, honestly, last year, they did a good job against them without Derwin James, without JC Jackson, without Joey Bosa. They did a good job against both of these receivers. I know Tyreek Hill had that fumble that he picked up and played rugby and ran it the other way.
Yeah.
And then he beat Michael Davis on a touchdown. But other than that, I mean, I thought they had a pretty good game plan against them. Now you get some weapons back. Now you're going to have more of a pass rush. What can you do with that? And I think that's going to be the big question. If you can generate the pass rush, get to Tua, bring him down, sack him more than 4 times, then you're in a very, very good spot heading into this. Because at some point, you've seen it, I've seen it, Tua start rushing passes.
He won't.
You
got to rattle the cage. You got to rattle him.
Yeah,
you know, just like JC Jackson coming back, which just real quick, JC Jackson, I think where he's really going to think about it is if they run towards him, like run the football towards him. That's where he's really going to be thinking about his knee and everything else, and it's going to be in the back of his mind. But same with Tua. You know Tua's coming into this game thinking, am I going to be able to hold up? What happens if someone hits me and stuff like that? Like, those are natural doubts these guys are going to have. So if you can, almost foment it or augment his doubts by, getting Bosa to close in, getting Mac to close in, getting Morgan Fox close in, right? Yeah, I know. Shout out, Sands in my boots, absolute banger. But
that's a natural thing. Like, I remember Joey when he had his concussions, he said, I kept on thinking, am I gonna get another one? What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Like Keenan Allen with his torn ACL, and then the kidney thing. He thought about it. So it's just a natural thing with athletes. They're gonna think 100%. About it. They want to see how they can test the limits. And remember, some of these guys have never been hurt before. Like Dan and I saw. I know you guys probably don't. I know some of you may watch wrestling. Some of you don't. We watched the Cody Rhodes documentary on Sunday night.
Shout out.
And Cody Rhodes said it when he tore his pec. He's like, I thought I was Superman up in. And there's a point going into sports. He tore his pectoral muscle before a big match. And he's like, man, I thought I was Superman before this. Like, I honestly thought I was indestructible. Nothing was going to happen to me. That's my first injury ever. And I'm like, oh, crap. Like, how am I just going to be on the fence? And he's like, and then he comes back for the Royal Rumble, which is a huge event where if you win the world, you have to toss 30 or 29 men over the top rope, and if you do, you get a chance at WrestleMania for the championship. Well, he said one wrestler hit him right where his pec was, and he's like, at first I was like, oh my god, how's it gonna hold up? How's it gonna go hold up? The first time I got hit, he's like, I was like, oh, I was relieved. Now I could go in there and start doing my thing. So that's just natural. It's gonna happen with these guys. It's gonna happen with Tua. It's gonna happen with J.C. Jackson. It's gonna happen with, I mean, even Joey with the groin injury last year. So it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, Dan. I mean, this is just, you can talk about so many things when it comes to these two teams. They're just so loaded with talent. There's so much talent all around them that you have to wonder, like, wow, like this is going to be a star-studded game. That's why I feel like it is kind of, I mean, I know it's the 49ers and the Steelers, the game of the week, but I really thought that this should be the game of the week. I mean, with all the talent on both sides. And I mean, I'm not saying that the 49ers and the Steelers don't have all that talent, but this team, both of these teams have a lot of talent. I think there's big expectations for both teams. And I think this game is going to be very telling for how this season is going to move along. But very interesting, Dan, all around. But and then obviously the big question mark is, how is the offensive line going to hold up for both quarterbacks? I mean, I know the Chargers offensive line right now looks good on paper because this is probably their best, if healthy, this is probably their best offensive line in years. But then you look at the Dolphins and there's some question marks there with this offensive line with the Dolphins, especially if Teron Armstead can't play. It's going to be a little bit shaky. So, but I mean, but there is offensive line issues. Again, the reason why there's offensive line issues with the Chargers is because we haven't seen this offensive line together. I mean, you have Rashawn Slater at left tackle, Zion Johnson at left guard. You have Corey Linsley in the middle. You have Jamari Sawyer at right guard. And then you have Trey Pipkins at right tackle. Jamari Sawyer, we've seen him during camp, but how is he going to hold up during the game? And then obviously there's other question marks. So
that transition isn't easy from tackle to guard. That's not easy.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. All right, Dan, well, let's get into your favorite part of the show. Dan, give me one fantasy player that you're going to be looking at this weekend.
I was talking about the run game. Give me Raheem Mostert. That's who I think is going to be the fantasy player to look out for, just because, like I talked about, last season, I know it's a new year and everything else, but we don't have much to go on. So going off of history, they haven't had a good run defense. So that's what I'm doing. Like I said, if I'm Mike McDaniel, I'm trying to pound that rock and really test them. Number one, I'm going to test their will to see how hard they're going to meet us between the tackles. And the other thing I'm going to do is test to see if they actually made some improvements or not up front. So I think Raheem Mostert, if you have him, I don't want to give advice. Then I'm going to get people in the comments being like, I lost my fantasy game because you told me to start this guy. I'm just a stooge. Yeah, I'm a stooge when it comes to fantasy. I just kind of guess half the time, which, by the way, I'm playing the co-host my week 1 game, so that's going to be pretty interesting. Shout out to you, Crown. So that's who I would go with, honestly. If there's a running back playing the Chargers, unless they demonstrate otherwise, I'd probably end up starting.
Don't choke up, Dan. It's all right. Don't worry.
I know. I'm like, just the thought of it.
Yeah, we haven't. You know what? And we didn't even talk about it. Eric Kendricks is a big part of their design to try and stop the run. A physical guy like Eric Kendricks who's going to come in. I know that there was some trouble with Drew Tranquil. They felt like never mind. I'm not going to say that they think. No, that's not it. He had some misses here and there when it came to tackling, and
he's a converted safety. That's the other.
Well, yeah, but Eric Kendricks is more stout, more bigger. He's been there, he's done that. He's a veteran in this league, and I think he's going to do well for this team. So be on the lookout for him. He's also a pass catcher. I mean, he had a great interception on Justin Herbert 2 years ago when they played the Chargers, when the Vikings played the Chargers. So
what are you talking about, Frau? Tua's accuracy is next level, as they tell me.
He can do it all. Oh, yeah, we're in the Ocho Bowl, I guess. When it comes to this,
talk about stooges.
I'm gonna go. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is a guy who I think has a lot of fans excited. Dan, when I tell you, and I know you were only able to make it, I think, to one practice. One or two. Man, you should have seen Keenan Allen during these practices, Dan. He was really lighting guys up. He was all over the field, scoring touchdowns, long passes, short passes, everything. I'm going to say Keenan Allen has a big game this weekend. And I think he shows up and shows out just because I really do expect a lot out of Keenan Allen, and I think I think he really likes his new role in this offense, and I think he's going to take advantage. So
was he like Chad? Was he like Ocho Cinco when he was out wide when he goes, yeah, trying to let the quarterback know?
Hey,
he's open.
By the way, I do want to. Chad one time said that
that guy's a legend.
He would play corner against Keenan, and he'd love to see what would happen. I'd love to see that. By the way,
dude, you know what's funny? Like Ocho Cinco is one of those guys like where I felt like if you weren't a fan of the Bengals, you still rooted for Ocho Cinco. I used to love watching that guy play, especially when they'd mic him up. He was the best, dude. Sound FX, he was the best. Remember when he tried to bribe that official with $1?
Oh yeah,
he's like, don't call this.
Don't find me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
don't find me.
Yeah.
Dan, who is your X factor for this weekend?
I think 100% the X factor is going to be the play calling from Mike McDaniel. I think if you're going to want to take it to the Chargers, you're going to have to give it a good mix, give them different things to look at and other things. You know, I would, like I said, well, I mean, if you don't, I guess it doesn't matter. Like the first thing I'm going to do, I kid you not, is I'm going to test up that defensive line in the run game. Second thing I'm going to do, just go level by level. I'm going to test Kenneth Murray if I have to pick one of the two linebackers. When it comes to DBs, hell, I'd probably test J.C. Jackson because like we talked about, those doubts and those type of things are going to come into his mind. You know, you put Waddle or Tyreek Hill on him and get him on a route that you like and you can complete often with Tua's skill set. You know, that's the first thing. That's some of the first things I'm doing. And like I said, if Jerwin's ever in the box, I'm taking a shot right away towards Alohi Gilman or whoever. And I'm trying to send Tyreek deep because that's the number one thing I'm going to do to try and, you know, make sure that number one, they respect your passing game. And number two, they respect your run game, because when Derwin starts coming in the box and stuff like that, you know, either he's coming or they need extra help in the run. So that's some of the things I'm trying to do. You know, if I could, I would RPO towards some of these guys who I think are a little bit undisciplined with their eyes at the second level. So that's just me. That's just, if the X factor for the Dolphins 100% is going to be Mike McDaniel. How can he get the best out of Tua in this offense? Because I mean, it's no secret. I don't think we're Tua guys at all. Like I'm not a huge believer in Tua or anything like that. I think that's why they got Mike White. So that's going to be that would just be my X factor right there, Mike McDaniel.
Mine's going to be Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa coming back from that injury. I think he needs to wreak havoc in this game for the Chargers to have a chance. I think he needs at least 1-2 sacks in this game.
Get his confidence up, yeah.
Maybe a forced fumble, but I think Joey is going to be a big an X factor for these guys this weekend. So I'm going to go Joey Bosa for sure. Dan, give me a prediction.
I'll say Chargers. I don't know whether to say by a field goal or by 7. I'll say Chargers by 10 at the most. Chargers by 10 at the most. You know, I don't like doing scores for now, so
no, I know. I mean that was a miracle in and of itself.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say in the fourth quarter, 27-27. Chargers drive down with their 2-minute offense. Cameron Dicker, the kicker, kicks the field goal to win the game. And
you're trying to get extra points for your fantasy team, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I just think that I think that's kidding. I think because of these two teams being so talented, I think it's going to come down to the wire, and I think Cameron Dicker is going to hit the game winner. But I think this is a big game for the Chargers to start off the season.
100%.
Like we said, like we talked about, Dan, we've seen the schedule. We've said it. The back end of that schedule is going to be really tough. You need to these first 9 games. First 8 games. These first 8 games, you have to be 5-3, 6-2, 7-1 to put yourself in a good. Anything else is going to be tough to get out of. So I think 5-3 is the worst that you can be. Yeah, but I think right now you have a great opportunity to go in there to put your staple on this or put the league on notice. Like, hey, we're here. We're ready to do this.
We've heard what you said.
Yeah, the Dolphins are a contender for the AFC East. So. But go in there and win this game and show that you have what it takes to moving forward to be a contender. So right off the bat, three tough teams. You're at home against the Dolphins, then you hit the road 2 weeks in a row at Titans, at Vikings.
Yep.
Two tough teams to go up against. So they're gonna have to go. They're gonna be tough games. They're gonna be tough games. So they need to get it going. And but I'll say Chargers win 30-27. But
most importantly, like what we talked about at the start of the schedule, having to open up against, arguably one of the best teams in the AFC, has a lot of playmakers and everything else. And on top of that, your next few games are against tough opponents. Yep. There's no better way to open up a season. There's a certain, Frown, you understood how pissed I was on a certain Friday night when a certain team scheduled 2 scrimmages, and then by the third game they take on one of the best teams, and it's like, you can't just start and stop like that. Like, in my opinion, you can't start and stop like that. The best thing you could do for your team in the long run is having tough opponents every week that are winnable games, if that makes sense. Like, you have to know what it's like to bump up against, tough opponents, because what happens, Frown, when you're, taking on, I'm not even going to name drop some of the teams in the NFL, but like some of the teams,
the Bills, the Chiefs.
Well, no. I'm saying, like, you know what happens when you take on some of these teams that are in a rebuild.
Inferior teams.
Yeah. And you win by like 15 or 20. Next week, you play the number 1 freaking team in the conference and you get smoked. Like, it doesn't help you in the long run at all. Like, the whole point is to play teams that are to your level or above, so it challenges you and you're progressing in your season. Like,
I completely agree with that.
There's my TED Talk on scheduling.
There you go. Well, we appreciate you guys so much for checking out another episode of What's Up, Bolts?
Yeah.
Like I said, this weekend, Chargers, Dolphins. Hey, after the game's over, Dan and Daygo and I will do a recap as soon as the game's over. We'll have some player interviews. I'll tell you guys what is going on in the locker room, what was being said, and everything. So make sure you guys tune in. Don't forget to check out on COMPAS on the Beat our interview with Chargers wide receiver Quentin Johnston. You don't want to miss that. It was a great interview. He was awesome. So make sure you guys check out that and everything else on COMPAS on the Beat. Don't forget to check out Armando Salguero's interview and everything else. But we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys. And don't forget, this weekend after Chargers versus Dolphins, we will be back to break down and let you guys know everything that is going on. But again, we appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget to tell your compas about what your compas are doing. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys so much. Have a great opening weekend. Have fun. Be safe. And we will be here on Sunday for Dan and Daygo will either be happy or be angry, but he will be here. So thank you guys so much.